Hi guys, I'm a little bit late with this, but last month Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was released and raised a rather important question. There was a little bit of controversy surrounding the game after Jim Sterling, a famed video game critic, gave the game a rather harsh score after encountering a rather rare game-breaking bug. Now, this action did receive a lot of coverage. A lot of people felt it was very unfair for him to do this, as the bug was very rare and the game was otherwise very good. Now, despite the fact that Sterling later did amend his score after finishing the game after the bug had been fixed, this did raise a rather important question. How bad do bugs need to be in a particular game in order to warrant giving it a bad score? This is a very difficult question to answer. There is no general consensus on what sort of bug warrants giving a game a bad score. After going through a load of different comment and discussion threads, it seems that there are a load of factors to take into account when asking this question, and I decided to list 3 of the points that I encountered most frequently. Now, starting with the first factor, it seems that a lot of people take into account the frequency at which a game-breaking bug occurs. Now, a lot of people do seem to feel that a game shouldn't receive a bad review if the bug in question, even if it is a game-breaking bug, doesn't occur very frequently, meaning that only a handful of gamers may ever experience it. Perhaps a very good example of this idea can be seen in the whole Jim Sterling situation, in which a lot of people felt he was being unfair by giving Hellblade a bad score. Despite the fact that I may agree with this idea, I do think it is important to consider the fact that it may be very difficult for anyone to remain impartial about any sort of game that they encounter a game-breaking bug in. If you spend hours upon hours in a game only to encounter a bug that won't let you progress any further, those hours become meaningless. It's kind of expected that somebody may be angry about this. People may want to give a game a bad review after something like that happens. The second factor that occurred quite frequently is this idea that a lot of people feel that a person's perception of the game is heavily influenced by who the developer or publisher of a game is. It does seem that a lot of people feel that sometimes the name of the publisher determines the amount of criticism a particular title may receive from the gaming community. An example a lot of people tend to bring up with regards to this overall idea is Bethesda and the amount of criticism their Elder Scrolls and Fallout games tend to get. Now, some people do believe that Bethesda has gotten off lightly in the past, and if other publishers release titles with the same level of problems that you've probably seen in Skyrim or Fallout 4, that they wouldn't get the same treatment. This is an idea that I have thought about quite frequently. Every time there is a game that is released with a load of bugs in it, a lot of people do tend to say in the comments that, Bethesda has never received as much criticism for releasing games in a buggy state as this publisher has. Maybe it's just me who notices these comments, but it is certainly a notion that is open to interpretation. You could probably find pieces criticizing Bethesda for Skyrim's state at release, but a lot of people do tend to ignore this. I do think that any sort of leniency a game may get from gamers on the basis of containing bugs or game-breaking glitches is based more on the overall genre of the game in question or the ultimate aim of that game. Bethesda has indeed received negative backlash from the gaming community in the past for releasing games in a terribly buggy state. Dishonored 2 last year had a PC port that ran absolutely terribly, with some gamers stating that they were not even able to start the game. And there are a load of pieces covering this particular story on the internet. This moves us on to the third factor I've identified. Now, some people believe that the genre of the game or the overall aim of the game determines how lenient one should be in terms of bugs and glitches occurring in this particular game. Some people do believe that games that fall in more ambitious genres such as open world RPGs or games that simply attempt to provide a newer or more fulfilling experience tend to deserve more leniency from the player. Continuing with this whole Bethesda example, you could perhaps see this with Skyrim or Fallout 4. There seems to be a sort of divided opinion on these two games, where some feel that it is expected to see games with such a large scope with several bugs, even if some of them are game breaking. And then there are others who feel that Bethesda shouldn't release such broken products and leave it up to the modding community to fix it, which incidentally they have been treating very badly lately. The fact that this argument is even being had suggests that some players are willing to overlook the fact that some overly ambitious games may contain some bugs, even if they are game-breaking bugs. Now, after having looked at these three factors, what sort of bugs warrant bad reviews? Ultimately, it is up to each person on their own to make up a decision on whether a bug is bad enough to ruin the entire gaming experience for a particular game. Personally, I don't think I have had one of those incidents where a game-breaking bug has just made me think that this game is absolutely terrible and it's the worst thing I've ever played. Bad review. You know, and I hold this opinion, having had to reload a save in Skyrim that wiped out 5 hours of my progress after walking into a room that loaded without a flaw, leaving me to fall into eternal nothingness forever. And then there was also the time that I had my game save corrupted right before the final boss fight in Batman Arkham Origins because the game froze while saving, forcing me to do a hard reset of the console and in turn corrupting my save. I do tend to believe that if you had a good experience with a game until you encountered that game-breaking bug, it should not necessarily hurt your overall view of the game. As we referenced earlier, sometimes you do get very emotional about these things, and you may say something bad about the game soon afterwards. It is important to remember if that game gets a bad review, it may not sell very well. Meaning that even if it may have been a good game, barring that one game-breaking bug that was fixed 2 weeks later, then, you know, it's probably not going to get a sequel. Maybe it could even mean the death of that particular developing firm. With this all said, there are games with game-breaking bugs out there that deserve bad reviews due to their bugs, but this is not really the case with every single game. Collectively, all we can do is hope that games aren't frequently released in messy, buggy states that render them unplayable. So what do you think? Are game-breaking bugs enough to warrant a bad review for a game regardless of the circumstances? Have you ever encountered a game-breaking bug that has changed your opinion about a game? Please share in the comments down below, and if you like this video, please remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.